Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. I'm Brian Jones, your host. Welcome to Sideline Shenanigans. I have Coach Shane Fry here. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Hey, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on.
Let's start from the beginning. What got you into coaching high school football in the first place? Was there a moment or person that really sparked it?
Yeah. So I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. I knew I wanted to coach. I kind of coached a little bit of everything. Honestly, probably playing sports, football would have been what I would consider my worst of the three, but I loved it. It was just so fun. Mm-hmm. I had such a good experience. And then kind of, when I was in college coaching, I coached a little bit of everything. But once Tim Fogarty, actually the late Tim Fogarty, Lafayette Jeff guy, Tecumseh Middle School, I got to student teach for him. And we became friends, and his kids were coming up through the system, and he was coaching middle school football and asked if I'd like to coach on his staff. And it was, man, I don't even think we were an hour into practice when I said, you know what, I've coached basketball, baseball, softball, golf, but this is it. This is what I want to do. And it was on, the old Tecumseh field out by 18th Street with Tim leading the way. And that's when I decided, football was the one I really wanted to dig into.
Right. What's your core philosophy of your football program?
Yeah, I mean, our philosophy, we want to serve our kids and our student athletes, and we want them to have a great experience. That's number one. We've had a coaching staff that's been here for years, and that's kind of the people that coach. I think they obviously had a great experience, and we want our kids to have this great experience that they'll always remember, they'll appreciate, they'll learn from it, they'll become better men. But our philosophy is for everyone to have a great experience playing high school football.
I imagine you wear more hats than just coach. How do you see your role in these kids' lives outside of football?
Yeah, I mean, it's different for every kid. Some kids, they need a little extra love, and some kids need you to come down on them a little harder than others. So it's different for every kid. I like to, just be available for them. Anything they need, they get through our program and graduate. They come back. We've got 3 coaches now that are former players on our staff, which is awesome to see. Because being here over 10 years now and 20 overall, it's nice to see the guys come back and want to get into this. And, anything I can do or anything our staff can do to help any of our guys, we're here for
them. Discipline's a big part of football, but so is connection. How do you walk the line between being tough and being understanding?
Yeah, that's a good question. Discipline is one of the main pillars of our program. We preach it, we show it. You've got to be disciplined off the field. You've got to be disciplined on the field. And that's, we coach our guys hard. It's, when they need coaches to be on them, we're on them, but we get it also some, at times you've got to take it easy. So it's, I think it's both ways, but if you're not coaching the guys hard and having high standards, in my opinion, it's going to be hard to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to be tough, but you also got to be understanding when a kid, especially if they're going through something. So how do you approach the tougher moments when a kid is clearly going through something off the field?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. These kids are 14 to 18 years old. So sometimes you forget that. And I think as a coach, you've got to realize that and know that they're just kids and they make mistakes and they need you at times more to be more than their football coach. And I just think that the more you do it, the more you see it and you understand what's going on and to be there for the kid and show them that you care. and show them that, you can help them out in any way, shape, or form that's possible. And I think that means a lot to the kids, and it helps them feel comfortable in the program.
Okay, Coach, what would you say the biggest challenge facing high school coaches right now, and how do you personally navigate it?
I don't know. It depends what topic we're really talking about. I think one of the biggest problems would be kids that are, I don't know if they're being told this or what, but the kids that are specializing in one sport, I think your window is so small to play high school sports. Our school's got 800 kids in it. We're a small school. You put all your eggs into one basket, and I feel like bad things happen. You get injuries, you get burnout. You might be selling out to get that college scholarship that never happens. And all the time you missed your window to play with your classmates. You missed the window to play for your community. That's never going to be there again. You can do intramurals and do things after high school, but this experience, it's not coming back. So I think, I feel bad for the kids that miss that, whether it's their parents or whether it's other coaches or whatever it might be. I just don't think they're having a great experience, and they're not having as much fun as the kid who, plays different sports and does different things and plays with different coaches and different teammates and just enjoys that experience.
What kind of culture have you built at West Lafayette?
I think it's I don't know that I've built it, but I think the culture in our football program is to do your best and to strive to be the best that you possibly can be. And that's not just in football. We say it all the time. If you're going to do something, you might as well do it. So whether that's outside of school, whether it's in the classroom, the weight room, the football field, the basketball court, the baseball field, whatever it is, if you're going to do it, let's do it. Let's work to be the best that we possibly can. And I feel like our kids in our football program really take that to heart. We have very high standards, and we hold our kids to those standards. And they know if they want to be a part of this, that we expect their best effort, and that's what they give us. And I would say that's a big part of it.
All right, Coach. As we talked about player development, how did you feel when you had a couple of D1 prospects on your team, like George, Yanni, and now their younger brother? I forget his name. I don't really pay attention to, but anyway, how did you feel like I have a D1 recruit on my team? What was your reaction?
Yeah, well, it makes your life a lot busier because there's a lot more coaches that come in, wanting to talk to that kid, set up meetings, watch the kid. But it's great. It's great for the program. It's great for the kid to have opportunities. We've had, obviously, the Karloftis brothers. Nico now will be a senior for us, but we've had plenty of others also, be at that level. And, whether it's Division I, Division II, NAIA, Division III, whatever it is, when a kid really loves the game and wants to play college football, it's great. It's great to help that kid get there. Hopefully, not only is he going to do what he loves in college, but hopefully, that'll ease the burden of the cost of college. And it just provides such a network for the kid and opportunities when you're going to college to play a sport. So it's been fun having our kids recruited and getting to know a lot of college coaches and developing relationships with them. And now that I've been here for so long, I know a lot of coaches, and actually a lot of them will be here tonight at our showcase. So it's a fun thing.
Yeah. I talked to Coach Shanley about that. He was telling me about that. He's been on the show before, and I really enjoyed talking to him. He was just really supportive, great guy. Shout out Coach Shanley. Fast forward 10, 20 years, what do you hope your former players say when they look back on their time playing for you?
I hope they had a great experience. Like I said, that being our philosophy, I hope they have great memories of playing high school football because, man, it's as many games and things that I did growing up. My memories are being on that field with my buddies and my brothers on Friday nights under the lights. There's just nothing like it. So I hope that they had a great experience. I hope they appreciate being coached hard, held to high standards, held to high expectations. And I hope that, they learned through this program and through school, they learned how to compete. They learned how to be better after school, after college, fathers in the workforce, whatever it might be. I hope some of that came from playing high school football.
How involved are you with your players beyond just football, academically, in the community, or even helping out mapping out their futures?
Yeah, I'm involved a lot because I'm here at school every day. We have, our strength and conditioning class, which I'm one of the teachers there. So I see all of our football players every day, which is awesome. I don't have to track them down in the halls. They're all in class. So I'm here to help them. They can, they've always got a familiar face in the school, and it's fun to be around the kids. Follow them in their other sports. Like I said, we're a pretty small school. We have a pretty big roster for being a small school, but, I know all our kids on our team. They know me. It's not like we have, freshmen at a different campus or, practicing at a different, everybody practices together, and it's a nice family environment. So many of our kids have had older brothers go through the program, or, maybe their dads have coached in some way, shape, or form. So it's neat seeing those kids grow up in the program and maybe go from ball boys or little youth football players to now playing for us and being part of the program. It's really special.
Absolutely. It's a special thing because I grew up in a small community. I'm from Attica.
Gotcha.
I always went to Friday night games, always stood on the sidelines with the high school football team. It's something I really enjoyed. All right, coach, every program has growing pains. What's something your team has struggled with in the past that you've worked hard to improve?
There's been little things. I couldn't put my finger on one specific thing, but you're always going to run into struggles. We've had trouble. Sometimes it might be the offensive line. Sometimes it might be the secondary. It changes every year. And that's what's kind of neat about coaching football. You never know where your strengths and weaknesses are going to be. As far as all around in the program, our numbers are great right now. We've had years where we've had smaller groups, and that can be a struggle. But our numbers are great now, and it's our job as coaches to develop those weaknesses. So whatever they might be, we've got to figure it out because we can't go out and recruit us a new team. We've got what we've got.
Right.
So instead of complaining and making excuses, we've just got to get better, and that's what we're trying to do every day.
All right, coach, let's paint a picture for the listeners here. How would you describe the culture of your program to someone who's never seen it up close?
Right. I would describe it as an extremely hardworking but yet fun environment. The kids get into the work. They really enjoy it. They want to be the best, and they know what that takes to get there. So I would say, our culture, I think, especially some of our other high school teams at times, I think people are surprised at how much work goes into high school football. It's pretty much a year-round sport now. The kids are in the weight room every day, all year long, and it takes what it takes, and that's what it is. And I think even if the season, even if you have more losses than you want, or you don't end up winning that championship that you want, if you put your best foot forward and you put everything you have into it, then I think that's success. And I think that's what our culture is going to show somebody that never has seen West Lafayette football. I think, that's how we measure success is being the best we possibly can be. Yeah, we don't win the state championship every year, but we're going to go down trying, and that's what it means.
All right. What are some non-negotiables in your program? The things that are absolutely core to how you run things year in and year out.
non-negotiable is the effort. We don't expect to have to coach effort, because if you're wanting to be a part of our program, we demand it. That's the standard. It's 100%. You can't miss things. You can't loaf. You can't turn it on and off. It's always on when you're with us. Also, another thing I would say is, we're not one for excuses. And we tell our parents that from day one, because a lot of times, kids are a product of who they're around and what they're around. And if, their parents are making excuses at home, they're going to be excuse makers.
Right.
So, whether it's, the ref made a bad call, or the weather wasn't perfect, or I have these shoes on, and you don't even say that around us. That's not part of our program. There are no excuses. We will fight and claw and compete and work to get better. We won't make excuses of why something happened or didn't happen. That's not us.
All right, Coach. You've been around the game for a while now. What keeps you coming back? What still fuels your fire?
Man, I love it. I love high school sports in general. I want our kids to have a great experience. I love the coaches I work with. Honestly, with my job, I teach PE. I'm the assistant athletic director here, coach high school football. I get a paycheck, and it's like, this isn't work. This is what I love to do. And we try to tell our kids that all the time. When they're trying to make college choices and figuring out what they want to get into, we tell them, do something you love. Don't chase a paycheck. If you love what you do, you won't work a day in your life. It just feels great to come to school and to be part of it. I have that passion for high school athletics and football. And I just love what I do. So it's easy.
Can you tell us about a player who really grew during their time with you, not just on the field, but as a person?
Oh, there's been a lot of them. We've had kids that have come in as freshmen and just not understand the work ethic that it takes. And then, by the end of it, become just phenomenal players and hard workers. There's probably too many to list that are like that, but I think it's a common theme. And you see that growth. You see the light bulb go off in that kid that might have been, tough to coach as a freshman, and didn't want to show up to the weight room and didn't practice hard, to their senior year. Maybe they're a captain now. Maybe they decided they want to play college football, and all those things you saw as a freshman have changed. And that's why, we talk about as a coaching staff all the time, you can't give up on a kid. Kids change, and it's our job to sort of mold that change and be there for them, and help them get to where we think they can be. Because a lot of kids, they don't have that belief in themselves. And once they see that you believe in them, and they start to get some confidence and start to learn to work and learn what the environment's about, they just become better.
All right, Coach. How much input do you have? You give your players in game planning?
Well, I let my assistant coaches coach, that's for sure. I'm a big part of the offensive game planning, as I still coordinate the offense for the most part. So game plan wise, we work and we meet on the weekends with the coaches. We give them Saturday off. We come back on Sunday, sort of review Friday night's game, but then get the game plan working for the next week. And so all of our coaches are involved in it. We've all got certain jobs that we do. So I like to see that everybody's a part of the game plan, and we don't leave that room on Sunday night until everybody agrees with what we're doing and what the plan is. And then implementing the plan starts on Monday, and hopefully by Thursday evening we're ready to go and have that last walkthrough, and then we're ready to play on Friday night.
How do you measure long-term success?
I measure long-term success by the program and your teams reaching their potential. The talent's going to be different every single year, and not every team is going to be built to win a state championship or maybe even a sectional championship. But you want those teams in the program to sort of reach the ceiling of that talent and be able to compete at the highest level. And also, like I said about our philosophy, like, wins and losses don't tell it all. You know, with our kids having a great experience, you can have a great experience and lose some games.
Mhm.
High school football career, I had a really good year my senior year, but before that, we didn't win a lot of games, but I wouldn't trade it. It was a great experience, and we we tried and we scratched and we clawed and we tried the best we could and we put our best foot forward, and that's all you can ask.
Mhm. Um, how do you identify leaders on the team?
Yeah, leadership's a great topic, great issue. Our team captains, they have to earn it. So our team votes on team captains the Monday after our season ends. So, last year we lost in the sectional championship in early November. That Monday we came in there and our kids voted sort of based on, who do you want to lead you? And we take those votes and we find out who our next captains are going to be, and they get named captain. And so, they need to learn how to lead, though. And we have several different leadership things that we go through, and we try to get our captains on the same page as the coaching staff. And we also expect all of our seniors to be leaders. They can't be disappointed that they're not captains and all of a sudden have a bad attitude. They need to realize, hey, just because you don't have the title of captain doesn't mean that you're not a leader. And we've had several great leaders come from that group that, they might not be named captain, but, it doesn't change a thing. They're still leaders. And the more leaders you can have on a team, the better. So it's a good experience for them. And hopefully the younger guys, they'll have a good experience with the leadership, and that will help them learn how to be leaders as they get older.
All right, coach, what's something about your program that people might not even know about?
Um, I would say from the outside, people probably don't realize just how academic our school is. I can't tell you how many teams we've had the valedictorian of our school on our football team, 4.0 grade point average. But honestly, you can say that, but the way our kids prepare for school, the classes that they're in, the honors classes, the AP classes, we might be in the locker room Friday night. I think we've had several instances where, our kids are doing calculus problems on the dry erase board, or they're on their laptop finishing homework assignments, an hour before game time. We might have a deal where kids have to miss practices for different AP exams, or the SAT test, or orchestra concert, things like that. And it's I love that our kids are well-rounded, and that's the deal. I think that's the biggest thing. That, some coaches I talk to, when I tell them things like that, they almost think that I'm joking, but it is by far academics first, athletics second here. And that's the way it is. And it's a great thing. And our school's a little bit unique, but I wouldn't change it. It's highly motivated kids, whatever they're doing.
What is your game day routine?
My individual game day routine?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So Fridays for me, we practice late on Thursday nights. We try to practice game time on Thursday nights. So, you get to bed after you get home from practice, wake up. We've got our 0-hour lifting group. Our team comes in at 7 a.m. So we're up early.
Mhm.
And then, after school, I like Fridays because I rarely get to pick my kids up from school during the fall. So that's nice. I get to pick my kids up from school on Friday, spend a little bit of time with them before we either report back to the field or the bus. So,
Mhm.
once you get on that bus or get to the field, then it's focus time, and it's just getting ready for the game. It seems like it takes forever. Pregame, you get there at whatever time, and it just seems like it takes forever because everybody wants kickoff. But it's a process, and I like staying relaxed in that little bit of time, and then ready to go at 7 or 7:30 whenever kickoff happens.
Mhm. Um, when you were a player, Did you have, like, a game day ritual you did? Did you eat something before a game? Were you too nervous? Were you too excited to eat? I always ate before a game just
Yeah,
to make sure I had energy when I got onto the field. I would play my butt off.
yeah. I think it's been a long time ago, but from what I remember, I think I ate all the time in high school, because you could eat all the time in high school and not gain a
Right.
pound. And now it's a little different. You can't eat quite as much. Yeah, I remember those after the school trips with your buddies, and that's part of it. That's high school football. That you don't just
Mhm.
remember being on the field. You remember dinners with your buddies and hanging out with your buddies. And yeah, we'd go right after school and get our food. And where I lived, if you actually had time to go home, it might be a 20, 30-minute drive to get home. So a lot of times you just stayed at school, went to Subway or something, grabbed something after
Right.
school, get on the bus. And then, you'd always have that hangout spot with your teammates after the game. And those are
Mhm.
great memories. Our town was pretty small. So if we wanted any kind of good food, sometimes we had to drive 20 or 30 minutes to get tile or something like that. So great
Ah,
memories, growing up in that kind of rural school, Lakeland High School. I went to school, same size as West Lafayette, just a lot different.
mhm.
Probably more like Attica, a little bigger. But those were great memories.
Yeah, how do you prepare your team for big games? For example, I see on your schedule you play El Central Catholic. They're a tough, tough team. Um, Lebanon, McCutcheon, Harrison, all tough teams. How do you handle that before, like, with your team? How do you make adjustments during the game?
Yeah. So first, we want to win every game we play, and we expect to win every game we play. But it's a little different in Indiana because,
Mhm,
in my opinion, sort of our philosophy is you have 9 practice games before it matters. So win or lose those games, our job is to learn from them and to get better for the next game. And we want to be playing our best when the playoffs roll around. So we don't overhype any opponents. We don't
mhm,
prepare any differently for Harrison, being a 6A school than we would if we had a 1A or 2A school on our schedule. We
mhm,
prepare for the teams the same. And honestly, in the regular season, we're much, much more worried about ourselves than really scouting too hard what other teams are doing. Like I said, we're trying to be the best we can be when the playoffs start. Because if we lose a couple games in the regular season, that doesn't change anything in the playoffs. We don't lose home
mhm.
field advantage or get a worse seed. So that's how we treat it. We go into every single game thinking we're going to win and expecting to win and trying to win. But we're also trying to learn to get better for when the playoffs start.
What's your philosophy on special teams?
Man, special teams is often overlooked. We've got an absolute great special teams coordinator, Aaron Wood. That man, he dives in depth with our special teams. He's we scout ourselves all the time. Some things you might not see on Friday night, he's going to catch on film and just make
Mhm,
our unit the best that it possibly can be. We spend a lot of time on special teams, and not just the kicking game, the
mhm.
return game, PAT block, you name it. We spend time on it. And Aaron Wood, also Doug Caldwell, they do just an absolute great job preparing our guys. And a lot of times, that's a way that some younger guys, maybe they are, third on the depth chart at a certain position, but maybe that's a way
Mhm.
they can get on the field because their skill set, makes them a better special teams player. So it's a great situation. Um, we take pride in our special teams, and we spend a lot of time on trying to be the best we can on that side of the ball.
What's your approach to halftime adjustments?
Yeah. So at halftime, we chart a lot of different things. Nice to have the huddle sideline replay system that we're allowed to go back and look at things. And we sort of meet as a coaching staff and figure out, what do we need to adjust. We go back on all the forms and handouts that our coaches up top have. And, it might look like a disaster by, you might have this pretty game plan going into the game and everything's scratched out by
Mhm,
halftime. But that's part of it. You've got to adjust. Even if things are going well in the first half, you can't always just ride it into the second half. You've got to find things that you can improve on. So I think that's a big part of it. Maybe a team is doing something different than you anticipated, and you've got to be able to adjust. So after we meet with our coaches for the first part of halftime, then we'll install with our different groups of players and just show them the adjustments that we're making for the second half and, come out ready to go.
How do you decide when to take risks?
Well, I think each game is different. Each situation is different. If you're the better team, talent-wise, you probably don't want to take a lot of risks. If you're running into a team that's a lot better than you, a lot more talented than you, you've got to take calculated risk and try to level the playing field somehow. So I think, there are a lot of highly calculated risks that can probably not be as costly than just sort of being that riverboat gambler and just doing crazy stuff all the time. It can come back and bite you. So I think we like to take our chances and take our risks more calculated because we feel like, our team most of the time is going to be able to play with that team that we're across from. And we don't want to put our kids in a position that's not advantageous to what we do.
How has the program changed since you took over?
We had a really good program when I was an assistant coach. We sort of, in the early 2000s, came from not being a very competitive program to middle 2000s starting to be competitive, to then 2008, 2009. 2008, we were ranked number one in the state. 2009, we went undefeated and won the state championship. And, a couple years later is when Coach Overly, he retired, and I was named head coach. So it was a very familiar transition because all of our coaches stayed. I had been there for 7 years when I became the head coach. I would say the biggest difference probably in the change, we have really improved our schedule over the years. Like I said, our philosophy is that if you get beat in the regular season, it's not a big deal. It makes you better for the playoffs. So, we went from playing a couple smaller schools, week 1, 2, and 3, to now we have Harrison, McCutcheon, and Lebanon. We had Jeff for 4 years. So we're trying to make our schedule as difficult as possible to challenge our guys. I think that's one of the differences. Also, just the way we do things, I really take everyone's time into consideration. We're efficient whenever we do something. We never practice over 90 minutes. I think that's overkill. I think you lose your kids. So everything we do is mapped out. We have plans for everything, practice plans, detailed. Even when we lift, like we don't want kids standing around and being bored. It's in, do your work and out. That's how we do things.
All right, Coach. How do you deal with locker room conflicts?
There really haven't been too many of them since I've been here, and that's part of that brotherhood and that the teammate experience. You've got to, I know all of our guys aren't best friends all the time, but we tell them when they're in the locker room, when they're on the football field, that they're brothers and they're going to be friends and they're going to respect each other and get along. And I think that happens for the most part. Every once in a while, there's some bad apples in the bunch, and I think the way to remedy that is to get rid of the bad apples, and we'll see pretty quick who that is, and we'll just ask them to not be part of the program anymore. And sometimes it's addition by subtraction.
All right, Coach. My final question for this podcast is: how do you keep morale throughout the season?
I think the fall is just a special time. Everybody coming back to school. Football is huge. Football is the sport in Indiana. Honestly, this used to be a basketball state, and basketball is still a big deal. But I think the more you ask people and the more you see, I think football is taking over. And you go out on a Friday night and you see the stands full. It's just a fun time. In our schedule, the guys know what to expect. They know what we're going to do on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, game time Friday. And if you're losing and if you're having some tough time, the playoffs are coming. So the mission is to improve for the playoffs, to keep it getting better, to be the best you possibly can for when those late October and November games roll around. So I think the morale is always high because you always have an opportunity. So the fall is a great time in the school year, and a great time for high school football.
All right, Coach, I want to thank you for joining us on Sideline Shenanigans. I'm Brian Jones. He's Shane Fry. Thank you for listening.